Welcome to Black Women's World Podcast, the BWWP.
We all have a sense of pride, but there's also being private, because like you said, with a counselor or therapist, or like what I do in coaching, I've had to sign NDA agreements, to keep things, private. But we also, like when Tanya Jr. talked about the strength and the strategy of vulnerability. But I think that's another case. I think some of us are on another plane that it's not just about being vulnerable. We don't even know what the next thing is. And so when I say it's okay not to be okay, I'm just being very vulnerable now to say right now at this moment with some things in my life, it's not okay.
Welcome to Black Women's World Podcast, the BWWP, where we get VIP access into the lives of Black women, or as we like to call us here, our SistaNistas. We get to hear from some of our favorite SistaNistas as they share their worlds with us and create connections, exchange realities, ideas, and baby, we get to recognize and celebrate how powerful we really are. Welcome to our queendom. I'm your self-discovery companion, your professional peacemaker, and I'm your host, TracyMac. Come on in and relax and sit with me for just a little while. Peace.
Well, hello, everybody. I am TracyMac, your professional peacemaker and your self-discovery companion and host of Black Women's World Podcast. And I have with me today my other dynamic co-host, Javon Cookie Jones. Javon, say something to the people.
Hey people, how y'all doing today? It's beautiful. The weather is like 70-something degrees in November, and it's just thebomb.com.
Thebomb.com. Javon, I'm so glad to have you here with me. Last time it was just Dina and I, and Dina is traveling, and I'll be traveling later on. And so this week it's you and I. So I'm glad to be able to be with both of y'all, but I also love it when we're able to get together. But Javon, it's kind of an awkward topic that I want to discuss today. And you and I have discussed it a little bit before recording. And it's kind of like several topics in one. It's okay not to be okay. And I say even it's something going on. Something going on. And I can't really put my finger on it, but it's I'll say start with myself. There's something going on with me mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and I can't put my finger on it. And on one hand, I'm anxious, but on the other hand, I'm having to realize it's okay not to be okay. It's questions I got, the answers I don't have. Can you identify with me on that front in any way, shape, or form?
What we say, baby? Yes. Not trying to sound all extra and stuff like that too, but it's more than a coincidence that you and I should talk and be dealing with some of the same things. You're miles away from me. I'm here in Virginia, you're in Carolina. And as women, as entrepreneurs, moms, wives, it's definitely something in the air. And a lot of people aren't talking about it. It's so much political, it's so much other stuff in the air that is overriding our mental health. It's overriding our spiritual health. Even to some, I say my physical health. We're not talking about it, and we're not doing what we need to do about it because we're consumed with so much other stuff that's going on. It's kind of like we're being bombarded with so much that we're not doing what we should be doing overall.
Yeah, I agree. And there's something about being sensitive. I shared on social media a couple of weeks ago about all my life. I used to cry a lot as a child. I was told I was overly sensitive. I used to get joked about it. And it wasn't until I decided to lean into my sensitivity and be okay with it. And sometimes I think sensitivity is safe. I mean, think about when we if we weren't sensitive, we would burn ourselves with fire, or we would have issues with hypothermia. If we would have issues with being too cold if we weren't sensitive. And so I appreciate being sensitive. And now as an adult, I embrace it as a gift. And at the same time, sometimes your sensory levels can be overly stimulated. And I know that with so much going on in the world, today is the 18th of November, but by the time this broadcast will be deep into the holiday season. We got Thanksgiving next week, Christmas coming up, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, New Year's. But there's so much going on. And there's some people I'm talking with, Javon, that are in the same place with us, that we're kind of drained. Where we know we need some energy shots, because mentally drained, spiritually drained, emotionally drained, that leads to physical draining. And I think because we're so used to bouncing back and having all the answers, I feel awkward right now. I'm just going to lean in and be honest, because I don't have them. But I feel cool about it because I know God ain't going to leave me. He ain't never left or forsake me. And I don't know what the next is, but I'm so uncomfortable with this now. I'm not okay. Are you okay?
I'm okay, but girl, I'm feeling it. I'm really feeling it. I have no idea of where to even begin with it, but I guess I can be very transparent because, I am a single mom, even though I have almost adult kids. They'll be 21 and 18, December 23rd. Their lives have shifted. They still live in the home. And they've got a lot going on that I can't just answer everything for them. They have decisions that they have to make. And I'm over here on one end screaming, but they can't hear me. They don't always trust my process, but they got to figure it out for their own selves. So it's kind of hard as a parent watching your children, especially young men, maneuver. And not losing it and not being stressed out and things like that. But I know God got them too. And they're going to find their own way as well. But even like we talk about all the time, just business owners of multiple businesses, it's heavy. It's heavy at times. And it's like when the business owner is full and needs to just vent or go scream, who do you go to? When everybody's always relying on you for an answer. Everybody comes to you. Even other business owners come to you. Hey, how do you do this? What did you do for this? What form? Da, 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 da. And it's just like, oh my God. No, I can't always find that place of just release.
Right.
Other than relying on spirituality. So then after I go into my little prayer closet and a long time meditation, so forth, I walk away feeling fulfilled, but at the same time, I'm still having to move that one foot in front of the other without fear, without trying to, mess up, and not realizing that I am imperfect. I'm not, I don't have it all together. I'm not always going to get it right. And it's okay not to get it right.
Right.
So,
and it's okay not to have all the answers sometimes. Based on what I do, I help people with solutions. And it wasn't until, I don't have all the answers, never claimed to have all the answers, but I was always sure about the answers I had. But I'm in a new place now where I'm not sure about some things anymore. I'm not sure about those next things that I'm supposed to be doing. And I know a lot of people in those places. And when you said having somebody, I think a lot of times, and we talked about it earlier, a lot of times, especially as Black women in a Black women's world, even though we're in the world with other people, in our worlds, it's really difficult for us to reach out sometimes because we have to toe the line between private and prideful. And sometimes, in our pride, we don't want to ask for help. Sometimes it may be we're just private, and you don't want somebody to take advantage of your vulnerability. But it's still sometimes difficult to delineate between prideful versus private. Do you have any example about that, Javon?
Oh, most definitely, because I was saying before that a lot of times when we do need help, other than therapy and, professional counseling and so forth, we tend to get a little prideful because we don't want anybody in our world. And I can speak for myself. I am very private. If I have an issue or issues, I'm going to keep it to myself. And I will wait to the last minute till I'm about to explode before I actually get the help. That's pride to me.
Mm-hmm,
You know,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
letting pride get in the way of the solution. So I have definitely got in my own way numerous times versus
Yeah.
just letting it go. My life is not that important or so, you know, I don't have secrets or so forth or hiding treasures of gold and everything. I don't have that type of life, but
Yeah.
I've just always been to myself, and you know, I close the blinds on everybody, you know,
Yeah.
until I'm
Yeah.
ready to keep a piece open or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. I have total control over everything in my life, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
So sometimes, well, here recently, I can just say I've just been like, oh my God, the rug has definitely been pulled from under me over and over and over again, and I'm just having to fall, just brace myself, but just fall.
Yeah.
My cousin tells me all the time, she tells me all the time, just fall, just let it go. You can get back
Yeah.
up. You
Yeah.
know, it's okay. But until you completely fall, you're gonna
Yeah.
keep on going through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
You know, Javon, that reminds me of I had a physical fall back in like 2008. I was
mhm.
getting out of the car. I had too many bags in my hand. Jada was a little girl then, and I had Blockbuster. This is how old it is, how long ago it was. I had a Blockbuster rental in my hand, our Subway in my hand, and a purse. And I was falling. And I declare it felt like it took me 2 miles to finally fall. I ended up with a hairline fracture and a twisted ankle. And I really feel like sometimes when you say just go ahead and fall, if I had just fallen
Yeah, it
and
probably
let
would
it
have been
go,
so
I probably
bad.
would I probably would have fell on my butt and I got a lot of padding and been okay. Because I was trying to catch myself, I made it
Mhm.
worse.
Yep.
And you know, and I think sometimes we do try to catch ourselves because being vulnerable to fall, you don't know what's going to happen. But I think sometimes we make it so much harder on ourselves because, like you said,
Mhm.
you know, we all have a sense of pride, but there's also being private because, like you said, with a counselor or therapist, or like what I do in coaching, you know, I've had to sign NDA agreements, you know, to keep things, you know, private. But we also, like Latonya Jr. talked about, the strength and the strategy of vulnerability. But
Mhm.
I think that's another case. I think some of us are on another plane that it's not just about being vulnerable. We don't even know what the next thing is. And so when I
Mhm.
say it's okay not to be okay, I'm just being very vulnerable now to say right now at this moment with some things in my life, it's not okay.
Mhm.
It's just, and I think we have to be okay because if I try to make it okay, that's me tumbling instead of Tracy just fall. You know, it's
Mhm.
like sit down before you get pushed down. You know?
Right,
Does
right.
that make sense?
It does. It does. I was gonna say a lot of times, you know, when you're used to, like, let's say for instance, my life, you know, I do own a hair salon, I do own a firearm training center, I do have, you know, the outside activities with my son's school, with band, now basketball, and you know, other things with my parents and things, something always going on, and I have total control over it. I thought, you know, until something else slides in, then the next thing slides in, and it's like I'm juggling, and I'm just the bomb doing all these nice
Yeah.
little circus acts, and then somebody throws in a whole banana, and I'm like, wait a minute, you know. So everything is falling, but
Yeah.
what am I going to let fall? What am I going to secure? How am I going to secure myself? And I'm telling y'all, it's hard. It's hard to have that balance, especially when you're so used to everything flowing and going. We talk all the time on this podcast about be prepared, plan A, plan B, plan C, all of these things. We talk about these things, but after you've exhausted all of those things, then what?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, sometimes it's meant to just bow out gracefully, fall on your hind parts, dust off, do it again, or do something totally different. Or
Yeah.
put the pride down and just go get some help. Talk to
Yeah.
somebody. You know,
Yeah.
be transparent, put it out there, you
Yeah.
know, not to everybody, but to someone that you trust, someone that you
Right.
know is equipped to take on how
Right.
to help you and get to the next level.
Right. That's good. And Javon, I love you said that for real because I think sometimes we confuse fall with failure. And I
Oh,
think
yeah.
anybody who's afraid to fail is not going to really succeed because we all fail, we learn. Um,
Mhm.
but I think sometimes And we don't mean fall like something, you did something bad and something. I'm just talking about not knowing the next thing. You know, what
Give
I
an
do.
example. Give an example of not knowing the next thing to
Okay.
somebody that's not an entrepreneur.
Okay. Take, for instance, 2002, I first heard of business coaching. 2004, I heard of life coaching. Before then, they did not exist. I didn't know how to get in it, but I knew that my federal job, where I was working DOD, a civilian for the Air Force at a legal office, was not it. I did not know my next. I did not know what to do next. I didn't know how to get into it. The internet wasn't what it is now in 2004. I didn't have a clue of what my next was going to be. And I was scared. And so now let's fast forward. I've been coaching professionally since then, full time since 2012. I love it. I can do it with the, it's like the back of my hand. I know it. I studied it. But now I'm going on to a next that doesn't look like that. And I'm not quite sure what the next is. It may be like coaching. It didn't exist before I wanted to get into it. Maybe my next doesn't exist, or maybe it looks so different, or maybe I'm so used to seeing something through a certain set of lenses that I haven't adjusted, and God is allowing me to be uncomfortable until I allow those, you know what I'm saying? Until I allow a new vision. Because my dad used to preach a message, you can't put new wine into old wineskins. But basically, if you're fermenting, the wineskin would burst if you try to put new wine into an old wineskin. So there's some things that I know that there's another thing happening. I just don't have a clue what it is. And having to find peace in the midst of this internal storm. It ain't nobody, ain't nothing wrong with nobody around me. This is just Tracy.
Correct.
You know, and even podcast wise, you know, we have women all over the world who listen. We've got some new countries. We've got Kenya on here now who listen, where they listen in Kenya to the podcast. So many different places, and I know it's just not an American thing. I know it's just not a Black woman thing, but that just happens to be who we're talking with. But that's kind of how I feel, Javon. I think that I've been in the place before where I didn't know the next, but I got it sooner than what I'm getting it now. And I think what's keeping me from it is trying to stay normal.
Yeah.
It's like I'm in this battle to try to stay on trend, this is what I do. I do this at this time. I do this at this time. And I think that what's calling for me is not in the same realm of where I'm operating. I don't know if that makes sense, but I know it is. I know it isn't. Well, does that answer your question or give the example?
I was going to say, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, a male friend, and he was saying that he got in contact with someone on a spiritual level to just sort of confirm that he was walking in the right path. You know, if he was doing the right thing in life. Like, am I aligned? Because I feel like I'm out of alignment. So he was asking me, do you think that this makes sense for me to go and ask somebody? Is this like a psychic reading? Is this like and I'm like, no, because a lot of times we live life and we just go. We forget to come back and say, hey, am I doing the right thing? I said, so I commend you for even going to a spiritual advisor to seek this type of counsel. So after he said, I began to question myself. Wait a minute, are you doing the right things? I mean, yeah, you do this, that, and the third, but are you aligned properly? So then I could hear so clearly. Do you mistreat people? Do you steal? Do you, all these negative things, you know, are you living a life of lies, deceit, and so forth? Okay, are you doing good for people? Are you moving forward? Are you helping? Are you taking care of your home? Are you communicating with others? You're in right alignment, Javon. That's what I could hear so clearly. So I'm like, okay. Now, I do sometimes feel out of alignment, but that conversation just sparked something in me like, wait a minute, maybe I'm not doing enough, or maybe I could be so much more effective outside of my little box, outside of my work and so forth. So that alone sort of put a piece of energy in me like, okay, I gotta be more effective where I go, or I need to make sure I'm doing my part here on earth, because we don't know how long we have. We don't know the time of day, but I just want to make sure I can, I want to make sure my family say she did the daggone thing. She made the most of the time that she was here on earth. And that's what's fulfilling for me. You know, and again, it started with the conversation with my friend, and I was just like, are other people thinking like this? Are other people feeling out of place? Or maybe in the job is not what defines you, but sometimes we define our lives and define who we are by what we do for a living. But that's not it. It's just not it. So a lot of times we feel unfulfilled because we're working a job and not working our purpose.
Right.
Stay tuned for more of the BWWP.
This episode of Black Women's World Podcast is being brought to you in part by TracyMac Solutions for Life Institute Coaching and Training Services. If you're experiencing relationship challenges, be it personal or professional, leadership frustration, conflict fatigue, a need for change or a better sense of direction, or maybe transition uncertainty, Solutions for Life Institute is where self-discovery and peace of mind merge and thrive, creating strategic solutions. Self-discovery is the privilege of knowing who you are here to be and what you are here to do. By doing so, you get to enjoy maxing out your best life, navigate easier through challenging situations, and ultimately increasing your bottom line. Which is why we are sure that self-discovery is one of the best forms of self-care ever. On purpose, through mission, with passion and compassion. To find out more or schedule a consultation, go to solutionsforlifeinstitute.com.
You're listening to Black Women's World Podcast. Let's continue the conversation.
Right. And I'm all about purpose, mission, and passion, knowing the purpose, who you're here to be, your passion, what you're here to do, and your the compassion and the passion you have about it, how well you do it, that bold enthusiasm. And I think, a lot of people, or should I say some people I talk to who are vulnerable enough have shared the same thing with me. It's just not normal. I mean, we have to realize we're in a pandemic. That's not the norm.
Right.
And we're in a different political climate in America, even across the world. There are different issues going on in every country. And I think that the thing and that I find peace in, Javon, is, or should I say, finding peace in not being okay. When I say not okay, I don't mean I'm sick. I don't mean, any mental health issues. That's not the okay I'm talking about. I'm talking about just that thing. I know that there's another frequency, if that makes sense. And I know I'm talking to people that believe different things. Some people believe in the Christian faith. Then you go to your pastor, your clergy. Some people may be Muslim. Some people may be Hindu. We're talking to people all over the world. So we have to think outside the box on the conversation. So a spiritual advisor to somebody may be palm reading. And that may not be something that somebody listening does not believe in. But I think there is a spiritual vibe that's happening that if some of us are feeling that pull that it hasn't completely defined itself yet. And it's okay. And I think, and for anybody who's experiencing this, and I hope you're picking up what we're putting down, because I don't even think we have the language for it yet, Javon. I think some of the ways we can get through it peacefully, like Javon said, in that alignment, because I do not believe in work-life balance. That means you're in stagnation, but that alignment Javon talked about. One of the ways I know is to not be engrossed by it, but to go to some things that are familiar so you feel like yourself, because this can have you kind of feeling a little sketchy. And this is, and mind you, this is, ladies and gentlemen, already having therapy sessions, already talking to those people that speak into my life spiritually. This is beyond that. This is stuff they can't even touch. Now, a therapy session don't get this right. Talking to a pastor or clergy don't get this right. Fasting and praying, I'm doing it. It's still that something, and I don't feel worried. But one thing that has given me a sense of calm is going back to familiar music. You and I talked about that earlier. I mean, I'm going back to Ron Winans Family and Friends 3, Commission, Milton Brunson. We mentioned Shay Norman, rest in peace, Shay Norman. And just because there's a sound, there's a frequency, and I'm talking about it from a musical standpoint, but that, is a vibe that music gives when I say, okay, I'm good.
And actually, we've discussed before, we listened to an interview that Kanye had actually discussed the healing power of music.
Yes.
And it makes so much sense. A lot of people don't agree with Kanye and what he's doing with his music, but it makes sense for him. And it heals what he needs healing with, So I can't say anything about that. He's so equipped with everything, the sound, the frequencies, the lighting, and what he needs to keep his sanity. So I'm like, wow, I get it. I mean,
Kanye definitely is a New World example, but if we go Old Testament, David had to play Saul. He was trying to run himself. So there is a soothing power of music. And I was also sharing with Javon that, both of us really love music, as y'all already know. But even in some of the gospel music I'm hearing today, not all, but it doesn't vibe with me. It doesn't hit that frequency I need to soothe me. And so I'm having to go back to some of the old stuff because it just happens to be what puts me in that place where I can not only feel worship is about heart. So it gets my heart in the right place to worship, but it also soothes my mind.
Correct.
And that thing. So if you're feeling this thing that we are having a difficult time articulating, but if you're feeling it, you know what we're talking about.
Yes.
Because you can't put it in words. And so we're trying our best, but it's touching your every part of your being, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, some of you even financially. It's touching your relationships, and you can't quite put your finger on it. So Javon, I mentioned one of the ways to soothe is music. And I know you agree with that. And do you have anything else, another thing that can soothe?
For me, it's I hate to say it like this, but my alone time, I may have nothing, no music, no anything, but to where I can hear my thoughts and I can hear what's being spoken to me, or hear nothing at all.
Yeah.
Sometimes, or most times, I have to go to that silence just to make sure, okay, I'm moving like I need to be moving. And it's not auntie's voice over here and not brother's voice over there. And, it's like, you just got to get to a place of solitude to where okay, I'm making this decision or these decisions based on sound judgment. As my mom would say, I have a sound mind. So I'm going to make the right decisions to go and do what I need to do, So solitude, just get away from all the noise sometimes. Get away from the stack of papers. Get away from the kids or whatever it might be. Not leave the kids, but I mean, just have that moment of solitude just to realign yourself and at least go into your prayer time, meditation time, and just ask for guidance, ask for a realignment, really.
Yeah. And this is where
start it all over again.
Yeah, that guidance and realignment. I love those two words because this is what self-discovery is about. Self-discovery is a never-ending journey. You discover I may have known Tracy from yesterday back really well. But this new area, I don't know her like that. So I'm discovering things about about God, about my relationships, and something that people tend to fall away when you're in this space because you're not in the norm. You're not you're not hearing the same things as some of your family and friends. So people fall away, but also you begin to embrace people who are on the same wavelength. Correct. So it's not just getting rid of those that can't hear, but it's also connecting with those who are in the same space. Because I think the word familiar, you mentioned that familiar long time. You know what that is. I mentioned familiar music. There's also familiar smells, familiar foods. We're in the holiday season where there's some things that I'm not telling you to overeat or overindulge, but there's some things that you need just to soothe you, spirit, soul, and body.
Correct.
and not to harm you, but these are the things I'm using and doing, because I'm not okay from the outside, but because I know being uncomfortable is exactly where I need to be, I'm really okay with it. I'm okay with the discomfort. It's like hell some days, but I'm okay with it because I know it's exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. And also, I would even add maybe an atmosphere shift, or a geographical shift from your normal, even if it's just driving home differently. Not saying you have to pack up and move, but sometimes you do have to just pack up and move. But that's not what I'm going at. But maybe you just need to just drive home differently, see a different neighborhood on the way home, go the long way home, or leave from home and go the long way to work, instead of, just shift your atmosphere. That way you can see things differently. You'll see a new sign. It may be something for you that you're just missing because you choose to go the fastest way home, billboard or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I did that the other week, going home a different way just to look at the foliage. It was just having that moment and that time. And Javon, something else I'll add is social media, because I told Javon earlier, I had not watched the news in real time at all since Dina and I did the 75-day hard challenge back in June. I read the news, I may catch a clip here or there. But as far as watching it on television, and yesterday I happened to be somewhere where they had the news on and I had to be there for like 4 hours. And I was almost overwhelmed because it was inundating me. It was in real time. This and this and this is going on. This trial, this murder, this thing is happening. This with the vaccine. And it was just so much. And I was like, you know what? And I had to put those headphones on. And Ron Wine's Family and Friends, but God was on, and I'll Go was on, and it just put me back in a place. You can't separate yourself from the world, because we have to still work. You can't just go off and can't be a monk and go off into a private secluded place for an undetermined amount of time. But at the same time, you do have to seclude inwardly.
Right.
And if those familiar places, going off into nature, having some meditation and prayer time, knowing that their prayer time is two-way. And that's the difference between meditation and prayer. The music, the smells. It may be that I don't like lavender. People say that's calming, but I don't like it. I like citrus. I like vanilla. I like those type things. So I like a fragrance, perfumes. So sometimes, just because I could be by myself or I could be going to bed and I will spray perfume on just to have that soothe, and so your soothing may be something very different. So all I guess we're saying, Javon, in a nutshell, is it's okay not to be okay.
Right.
Because you're not hearing and thinking and doing what you usually do or what other people are doing. Javon, please help me out with that.
Sum it up. You've said what was needed to say, and it's like, it's okay. It's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to not know. Get yourself somewhere, sit down, and just focus on you. Focus on your next. If you don't know the next, just take the time and be okay with it. Listen to a nice song, something that just takes you back to good times, something that makes you feel good, whether it been in a spiritual setting, whether it been in the club somewhere that's giving you that little soothing vibe, just something that just takes you to a place of, I don't even care, not in a bad way of I don't care, just I don't care what commotion is going on. This is taking me to, it might be Nat King Cole for some folks,
and you say that
a whole other place.
I think there was a songwriter, Kim Rutherford. She wrote for Fred Hammond and Radical for Christ like nobody else. I don't think Kim ever got the just credit she was due for the amazing song she wrote for Fred and Radical for Christ. But she did a solo project, and I was flying to Okinawa, Japan, 14-hour flight. And my first time on an international flight, and I replayed her song, Catch Me Away to a Better Life, Above the Clouds That Cover My Life. And it was just, she started out horizons in view, sunset, rising moon. It wasn't so much what the words, it was the way it made me feel. And so wouldn't you know it, I could not find the song on my MP3, but I found the CD. And I went and found a CD player
Right.
and put it on, and it took me right back to that calm, that space. So basically, if you are not okay, it's okay. But finding peace in not being okay is basically what we're trying to tell you and teach you. And hopefully that our vulnerability and transparency kind of sheds some light. Finding the space to where you're not okay, to be okay with not being okay. Familiar music, familiar places, familiar sounds. And this ain't nobody else. I ain't trying to tell you get around familiar people, because they'll draw you into their thing.
That's right.
And like I said, they may color your lenses in their direction. And I think it's a new day, new lenses for some of us. And if you're in that place, please let us know that you're hearing and you're vibing with this. I don't know how we're going to disseminate or publish this. It might be on Facebook. We might do it on the regular way of the podcast or on YouTube. But however you see this, let me and Javon know that I know we're not alone. And I think some of the comfort you may feel is when you let us know that you feel the same thing we're feeling. I think there's strength in numbers. I think there's safety in the multitude of counsel, and we can give an exchange some good counsel with one another as we're not okay. Javon, some closing words for our listeners?
Just be okay. Be okay.
Be okay with not being okay.
Yes, be okay.
So again, BWWP listeners from all around the world, thank you for vibing with us. And look, enjoy your holiday season. This is a hard time for a lot of people due to the pandemic, due to suicide rates and depression, and a lot of anxiety goes up this time of year, especially if you're feeling some of the things me and Javon are talking about along with all of that. Look, take care of yourself. You know, let somebody know you need help. Reach out for help. Help is not weakness. Help just let you know your life is bigger than you can handle. So reach out for help. Know that you can be okay with not being okay. All right. Much love and peace. I'm TracyMac.
You've been listening to Black Women's World Podcast, the BWWP, brought to you in part by TracyMac Solutions for Life Institute, coaching and training services. No doubt you have enjoyed being in our world, and it doesn't have to stop here. Head on over to blackwomensworld.com. This is my personal invitation to you to stay connected with me on social media and more. I'd love to see you there, and I'm so grateful you came to be with me here. Invite someone else to join you in our queendom next time so they can feel the vibe of our tribe of SistaNistas and SistaNista lovers too. Remember to be kind, be authentic, be generous, be excellent, be grateful, and while you're at it, go ahead and be extraordinary, because that's just what SistaNistas do, on purpose through mission with passion and compassion. It's a Black woman's world, baby, and you, my SistaNista, are proof. I'm your self-discovery companion, your professional peacemaker, and your host, TracyMac. Wherever you are in the world, may you love and be loved by somebody. Peace.